Hello, everybody. It's Narrative Tarot. I'm here with your Pisces new moon reading for March 2021. So, I am Narrative Tarot. I do tarot readings by planet. So, if you have any interesting aspects in your chart regarding certain planets, stick around for those. I do those monthly. I do new full moon readings. I'm going to start womb readings, redemption readings, things like that. And commenting, liking, subscribing just helps populate the videos and also keeps you in the loop, especially if you subscribe, because I do videos also on other topics, just like, just free flow and things like that. So if you subscribe, you'll be in the loop for that. Right now I'm doing my LNT journey, but there's going to be other videos after that, so stay tuned. So this is your new moon reading for Pisces, March 2021. It's going to have two parts to it, and so let's get into it. Let's do it. Oh, come on. It doesn't pop up. I'm not taking it. If anyone wants to know what this deck is, it's Tarot del Fuego. And then I'm using a cloud deck for my other reading. Okay. Okay, so an extra one. So we're going to do a 4. Just one. Okay. Cool. So we have the upper world and the lower world. Please keep in mind. Oh my jeez. Come on. Stay there. It does that little staticky thing. Okay. It's like I guess we'll just take it out. Anyway, so we have the upper world and the lower world, and each pair can be its own story, or it could be just a part of the whole. So put this, I guess, right here or something. Okay, so first pair we have the Hierophant and the Tower. So with this, the same things that build you up can tear you down. So it's kind of like the same virtues that you have are very quickly able to become vices. And the only reason why I say quickly is because of the Tower. So it's kind of like for Pisces season, think about the virtues that you have and then how they can easily be swayed to act out their darker aspects, right? So this Queen of Wands here, to me, it's like, yes, it's like a tree, it has a little fire and stuff like that, but Queen of Wands is quick-witted, she's fire, and so also because it's a tree, think about trees provide the fuel that fire needs to keep burning, right? They do need constant oxygen and they need some sort of thing to keep them going. And so the same way that you are motivated to move in a positive direction is the same way that you can be motivated to move in a more negative direction. When you think about, I had just had classes today, when you think about nutrition, the same, thing that you use to eat, the same thing that you eat to keep you well in excess or too restricted, extremes and things like that, it can be devastating for you. So make sure that you're having a balance. Make sure that you are upholding the kind of virtues of whatever that it is that you're using. Make sure you're not using it just for your personal gain, for your personal pleasure. The Hierophant is linked to leadership or some sort of hierarchical positioning. However, it's there as a guidance for you. Some people can see it as a middleman, right? So it's seen as a virtue of guidance, it's seen as a vice of middleman, and the connotations of what that means. Make sure that the way that you're positioning yourself, the way that you're positioning your work, your relationships isn't so easily seen as a vice. And if something goes down, don't quickly see it as a vice. See it for its virtues with some vices. This is also indicating that you need to be aware of what is more on the vice side and what is more on the virtue side. And whatever is on the virtue side, accept it for what it is. And if you want to keep it, keep it. Whatever is on the vice side, if you want to accept it and keep it, then accept it and keep it. But know that whatever choice that you make, you are bound to it. Also, just understanding that, like I said, there's a duality about everything. There is negative and positive, and you can't be so quick to say that everything is all negative or all positive. You can't deny shadows and you can't deny light. Give people credit if they're mostly shadow and one day that they turn out to be light, they turn out to be correct, they turn out to be someone who does give good advice in that moment, even if they have typically been someone who gives horrible advice, things like that. Don't discount everything that they say just because they have a history. And the Hierophant is also, to me, a little bit about having history, because the position and the role of this figure is well established. Usually there's lineage of people in this position. Make sure that the lineage isn't just overlooked or pegged in a box to be a certain way, right? Pisces is about transcending that. There is a transcendent moment. There is a moment where this thing provides some sort of clarity, honesty, things like that, that you previously overlooked, or previously, due to experiences that were recurring, you placed it in a certain box, and it's in this new moon that you should look at it with a fresh perspective. Next, we have the Seven of Wands with the Knight of Pentacles. So it's funny. So we have two animals displayed here. However, one is skeleton and one is full flesh. So making sure that you're not operating on bare bones, a bare bones business, a bare bones anything, just because with the Knight of Pentacles, I know Seven of Wands seems a little bit more harsh, but I think Seven of Wands has more of a drive to go through. Versus Knight of Pentacles, you may feel like because you've arrived at a certain point that you need to spend money or show off that you've progressed, and that's just not how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to keep working. You're supposed to keep acquiring at this point. It's not necessarily money, but it could be knowledge or anything like that. Right now, you're not supposed to slow down. You're not supposed to sink in a whole lot of money into something, someone, some place, things like that. You're meant to work on it. You're meant to have your own space and time to develop and not put forth anything. That doesn't mean be selfish, but it's just kind of like right now you're in a space where you can't, with that Seven of Wands, you maybe can't give to someone or something, versus the Knight of Pentacles is kind of knowing that you can't but still doing it, right? You know, if you're not a King of Pentacles, a Queen of Pentacles, things like that, you may feel obligated because you do have something to give something, and that's not going to help you in the long run because you feel quite unready and uneasy with it. At least with the Seven of Wands, you can feel, I think the Seven of Wands in this card, let me double check and make sure everything's still recording. Okay. At least with the Seven of Wands, I kind of feel like there is an awareness of the self enough to adequately assess what's going on. Like, there's enough to assess. Versus with the Knight of Pentacles, like, everything is the person, the human, I guess, in this is blindfolded. They're next to a cliff. They potentially could be going over the animal that it has is a skeleton, and so it's not quite as fleshed out in its own ideals to make decisions regarding sharing and giving to other people, I guess, is what we can say. So just make sure that you're not over promising, overextending yourself. Make sure that someone is not overextending you. Make sure that you're getting something out of it. If it's not where you want to end up long term, just say that. But making sure that with the Seven of Wands, you're actually speaking up. You're actually able to see what's going on. Even if it's weird, you can see what's going on. You can see the things that are happening. And you have the time and the space to defend it. So defending yourself, not necessarily in a way where you have to go on the attack against someone, but defending yourself where you can adequately say, no, I'm not in the space to give. Maybe an example of this is you maybe had a goal, so a carryover from this Hierophant and Tower. You maybe had a goal and you were working really hard, and you know it's a great thing to give, right? You wanted to donate maybe like $1,000. It turns out that you can't donate $1,000. You can donate maybe like $250 this year or something like that. The good thing with the Seven of Wands is that you can still make that donation or that contribution or whatever, but it's just you are spacing it out. The timeline that you're using is spaced out a little bit. You're adequately assessing everything that you have. You're adequately assessing your finances. You're adequately assessing your time. You're adequately assessing your capacity to love and to build and to grow and to share with other people. And you being honest, yeah, people can be disappointed in that, but at least you've been honest. With the Knight of Pentacles, I feel like if you put the $1,000, you would be resentful of everything that you gave, and especially if you don't get anything out of it. Like, you know, if you were expecting to get something out of it, like a plaque or a recognition in, like, maybe your like high school, if this is where you're doing your high school kind of brochure at the anniversary or something like that, just making sure that you're okay with what you gave and you were honest enough to say, I can't give this much this year, even if it's to yourself, but I can give this much, and be okay with that, and truly be okay with that, because the Seven of Wands, you still have the capacity to make it, but it's just at a later date, in a later time frame, space, whatever, and you are gonna make sure that it gets done eventually. But maybe this year's $250, next year's $300, the next year's $500, year after that is $700, next year after that it's $750 or $800, and then eventually you got to your $1,000. And so the Seven of Wands, I think, acknowledges just a little bit more than the Knight of Pentacles in this reading, the need for incremental process and the need to acknowledge that you are making progress by being able to give back at all, but that you aren't at the full capacity to give back everything that you can. But there's no like down in your luck attitude about it. Upper world, we have King of Pentacles, and then we have Nine of Cups. So this Nine of Cups, I feel like wanted to come like reversed just a little bit, because reversed, so look, this is the Nine of Cups, right? But reversed, it actually would be all upstanding cups. So with the King of Pentacles, guard your time, guard your efforts. And then with the Nine of Cups, if it were reversed, you would be extracting whatever it is from these flowers, the water from these flowers, into these cups. So you need to go to environments that actually feed you. And with the King of Pentacles, don't be afraid if there is an entrance fee to it. For some reason, I feel like maybe the areas that you need to get your most valuable lessons you have to invest in. So it's not necessarily school, but like if you want to learn how to do something, you are most likely going to have to pay for it. Doesn't mean you have to pay $40,000, anything like that, depending on what it is, but you are going to have to exert something. You are going to have to marry and chain yourself to something in order to get out of it what you want. And I think you putting in something to the universe shows that you're willing to give something to receive it, as opposed to just having your hands out and then looking for it with no expectation of returning, no idea of reciprocity, or no willingness to have reciprocity, right? That you just got it freely and then gave nothing back. So this would be an example, would be having mentors all your life and then expecting someone to always mentor you, but then never ever giving back to the community, even if it's not specifically the people that mentored you, that you don't pay it forward in some way. There's no acknowledgement of the time that people put in to pour into you, or the money that people paid for you to go places, right? So if you were an athlete, if you were in certain clubs, if you were in certain sororities or groups and things like that, like conferences, meetups, things like that, maybe you got sponsored, there's no acknowledgement of the actual like money with this King of Pentacles. And so when you really do need an investment, maybe people don't step up. You really are going to have to step up and pay the cost and the bill. And maybe with this Nine of Cups, it causes you to appreciate it just a little bit more. So think about that. And then lastly, we have the Ace of Pentacles with the Six of Cups. The Ace of Pentacles with Six of Cups. So I do feel like if you put effort into things, it will come out. Just make sure that with Pisces, and especially because the Sun's in Pisces, Venus is in Pisces, I believe right now, and then Neptune's also in Pisces, just make sure that like, and Mars is in Gemini, I think now. Make sure that you streamline what you want, because you could have a lot of false starts and false promises based on how much you put into something. So if you put, let's use this in terms of money, if you have $20, but you put half of it towards like video games, and then $5 towards like going out and with your friends, and then $1 for yourself, like sheets that you need, it's quite obvious from the way that you spend that the proportion that you're going to get back from the games is going to be larger than your sleep. And it's because you put more effort into that than the other. And so if that's not working for you, you have to change up the proportion that you give your energy to. So if you need to sleep more, you need to put more money into that. Or literally, you might need to put more money into that, investing in sheets, bedding, a bed, things like that, as opposed to the video games, right? So if you were trying to spend more money on relaxation, investing in those pieces to help you relax, or an app or something like that, an experience generally, then you would need to put your money towards that for you to reap it. And so, especially with Mars and Gemini, this may, it's still sextiles where Mars is kind of at home in, which is Aries. So it's not like it's, that bad. It may be in fall in Gemini, but I don't think so. But just make sure that you don't spread yourself out too thin. Make sure the things that you want are the things that you really want. Make sure the things that you're going for are really the things that you're going for. And put effort into the things that you want to combat out. So if you want a relationship, put in effort to attract a relationship. You don't have to put effort in like actively dating right now, but you can put effort into going out more, being more personable, getting and collecting data based on those experiences. If you want to get healthier, tracking your calories, well, not really calories, but tracking what you eat, breaking it up. Maybe you notice you eat more carbs than you do, I don't know, something else. Or you eat more, vegetables than you do fruit, and then, but you eat way more meat or way more starch or something like that. So just taking charge of that is really important. With the Queen of Wands here, this Queen of Wands is quite rooted in her experience. She's quite willing to use the environment to her advantage, and that's something that fire does do. It uses the materials around it to its advantage, and so it does have to create that relationship to use whatever energy source is around to get what it needs done. And so that's surprisingly the energy that you probably would need to take on, even as we're still in a water season, but in a week we'd be in a fire season. So this is the second part of the reading. One at a time. Okay, so we have for the day before the illusion, the date of the big 6 months from now, the bubbles, and then a year from now, the dream. So essentially, the illusion and the dream, you may realize that what you thought you wanted a year from now isn't what you really want, or it isn't really what you get. And there's some like disconnect between that. So just make sure that you are adequately seeing what you want, how to get there, and that the space you're coming from isn't somewhere that's like needing some sort of validation from outside. You need to make sure that you're validating your experiences because it's truly what you want and you're going in the right direction. Doesn't mean you don't have doubt or anything like that, but make sure the direction you're going in is your direction, because you don't want to look up and realize that this dream was an illusion, that it was you casting an illusion, blocking out whatever it is, or that it was someone else's dream, and that because you weren't aware of yourself enough or them enough, your own boundaries and life goals enough, or you didn't speak up for them, like this Queen of Wands, that you kind of let yourself be swayed to move in a direction that isn't healthy for you. So work on that. And then we have the day of is the big. So if you do feel a whiff of disillusionment, make sure you don't blow it up out of proportion, because that can taint. We have the word of this. That can taint the way that you go forward. If you over-exaggerate, if you feel disillusioned and you over-exaggerate your flaws, or you over-exaggerate the blame for something, this is like for Pisces, this is the last kind of hurrah. So you just want to make sure that everything's clear, because things are clearing up energetically in that. We're moving from water to fire, so the fire element is getting stronger, and it's kind of like when there's a fire and it's essentially evaporating the water out. Like, let those impurities or those doubts be evaporated, as opposed to like the entire thing. Let those things which need to go away and burn away do so. But if it's a valid dream, if it's a dream that you've wanted that is from you and no one else, then there should be the dream remaining in its purest form, essentially. So you might, once everything settles into Aries season, you might really want to push forward and go for these big goals and big dreams. Make sure that, like I said, the illusion part of this doesn't make whatever this is bigger than life and something that you can achieve, because that could be like a subconscious thing that stops you from going forward what you want, because you've made things so big that you actually made them elusive. And that can be very, I know this because I'm a 12th house moon, it could be like a self-fulfilling prophecy where it comes out through the illusion at the end that your dream really was to sabotage yourself. And that's like a weird dream to have, but that's the cycle, essentially. Like your biggest dream, which isn't really a dream, it's just like a trauma that's trapped, which this bubble card can talk to. But it's a trapped thing that needs to be released, of you wishing that you were sabotaged, or that you sabotage yourself to fulfill this, and that the dream needs to be so big because eventually one day, it being a bubble, a big bubble, it'll finally break through like the surface. It'll finally break through the surface. It's big enough, but what ends up happening is that it ends up just rupturing halfway through because it's not well thought out, and it's so big that you don't really have the momentum to continue it. But that's the mechanism of self-sabotage. Like, if it was simple and to the point, you would think that it's not achievable or not worth achieving, but actually that's the goal that is worth achieving, generally the most humble of goals. And it doesn't mean it doesn't turn into something successful or bigger. It's just that the goal is simple and to the point, and it's to the point of who you are. Do you get what I'm saying? It's not fluffed up. It's not lied about. It's, this is who I am, plainly and simply. And that's actually the biggest goal that you could have. One that is very simple and to the point and of you. So 6 months from now, with the bubbles, you will have to worry about bursting your bubble, making sure you're on track, making sure that everything is still going the way it's going. Because, so that would be Virgo season, so that's like what, August, September? Is making sure that you're on track, making sure that you can stand what's going on, you can withstand the challenges, the day-to-day stuff, making sure you can withstand the minutia, and that's where this Ace of Pentacles comes up. Just making sure that you're not creating so much minutia that, again, you're sabotaging yourself. And if you do have minutia, making sure that you develop a system that either not offshores it, but not offshores, but what's the word where you delegate it or move it somewhere else or something like that, or eliminate it altogether, or get honest about its place, get honest about its process. Like maybe it's a 12-step process, a 12-month process or project, as opposed to a 6-month. And being real and assessing that doesn't burst the bubble, it just makes it a lot easier to deal with. And also making sure that you're dealing with the appropriate issue, making sure you're not twisting up energies and problems and things like that. Making sure everything has a place so that you can flourish. And then lastly, a year from now, we have the dreams. So when you have dreams, when you have goals, and you accomplish them, that's like a really great thing. And sometimes when the dream is accomplished, you realize there's something else behind it that you really wanted. So like, this is coming at the end of the road of one job and realizing that what you really wanted to be was something else. Like, this is something I just like came up with. As far as my own life, I was like, wait, I really wanted to be this when I was younger. Like, why am I not doing that? But it might be if you're not careful, like I said, that it turns out to be illusion and it turns out to be you're not living fulfilled, or it turns out that that journey that got you to this dream realized is really just the start of something even bigger. And so you then realize there's a larger journey within yourself and within your states of consciousness that you have to go through to get there, because it's bigger than what you thought it was. It goes deeper, it spans wider, whatever, but it's bigger than you thought it was. But it's a job well done, but it's like there's more work to do and you're up for the task. Or are you? You gotta decide that. But this has been your March full moon, well, not full moon, new moon reading for Pisces season, Pisces new moon. So I hope that you enjoyed this reading, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye.